have the honor to guide you through some lessons today and help you to think like an astronaut. And I want to start with a question. Did you know that out of 118 billion people who ever lived on this planet, only 601 of them went to space and saw Earth from above? And within that group, there were only 24 people who've seen it like this. It's also called Earthrise. And it's been photographed by the team of the Apollo on its way to the moon, and one of them accidentally looked back and saw it, taking a picture which was forbidden with the mission control station because they should look up into the sky, into the vastness of space. So 1 out of 118 million people eventually becomes an astronaut. That is fascinating. And astronauts in space have been triggering imagination of mankind for decades already. You know, it makes you wonder what is out there. Would there be life? What will happen out there? And what is really interesting, that it doesn't matter whether it's boys or girls, doesn't matter when you're young or old, if you have a lot of money, like all those billionaires, paying 50 million a year to go up and to become a hero themselves. And what is also really nice when we travel across the country with the rockets, I always have, of course, children confessing to me that they want to be an astronaut, but also older people like you guys, and telling me, yeah, you know, my dream was to become an astronaut. Curious how many of those are here. Can you raise hands? Any people? 1, 2? People who might want to go to the ISS to see Earth from space? Maybe want to go to Mars, of course, and getting back. Yeah, getting back. That is really important, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, my name is Janine Geijssen, I'm the managing director of the Space Bus Foundation, and I have a small confession. When I was young, I liked space. I liked Earthrise, for example, but you know, growing up near the oceans, I was more in the Captain Cousteau part. And that made you probably wonder, why are you here? Why are you so passionate about those rockets? Why do you build them? And that all has to do with the personal story of astronauts. Not the TV shows, not the standard interviews, but the documentaries. Because when you dive into those documentaries, there's a fascinating story. And of course, it starts all with the selection process. Really, really difficult. You have to compete with 10,000 of other people, really talented, committed to become one of those 20 or 30 people who usually go to space within a decade. And then, of course, train 4, 6, 8 years, never being sure if they're sent up, because that could be changed right in front of them when the rocket is launched, that they hear that it's not possible for them to go. And then eventually they go through the hemisphere into the ISS, scheduled 24/7. Every minute is planned, doing all kinds of experiments, of course, working really, really hard, and then after months coming back, bone density, 20% less, quite a problem, can't walk that well anymore, and they come back down Earth. And on that moment, they changed their perspective. And the incredible thing is when you ask what changed your perspective, it actually has nothing to do with space. It all has to do with the moment that they look back and see that beautiful, fragile Earth. And it's also described in this way. And it really creates a completely different sense, a sense of belonging to that place, a sense of taking care. And they have their own phrasing for that. They feel themselves real ambassadors of planet Earth. They feel a responsibility. And they talked about it with each other, but no one asked. But that's a fascinating story. And the second very interesting thing is that new perspective, that sticks to them. And it makes that they start to act. They act upon it the moment they're back. And the interesting thing is they don't become climate activists, all of them. Absolutely not. André Kuipers, for example, he called with World Wildlife Fund, first call, and said, okay, can I help? And he brought it into education, great shows, Ziggo Dome, just to inspire future generations. But there are also astronauts who are architects. And you can imagine that if you're an architect and you have that different relation like this, your cities you build, they will look different. And when you're in technology and think about, for example, garbage or something like that, then maybe garbage isn't garbage anymore with a different perspective. Then it all of a sudden becomes a raw material and you can build something out of it. Fascinating stories. And they came on a moment in my life when I started to think about big topics. And I think you all had that once, that you start thinking, okay, climate change, sustainability. But more and more entered the global platforms. It was also about diversity. It was about inequality, inclusion, all kind of topics, big topics, complex topics. And the more I thought about it, the more complex it got, even difficult. And then, of course, there is that danger that you think, whoa, apathy, can't fix it, impossible. You know, I like the word impossible. It turns the light on. What if it would be possible? So for me, that was an interesting moment. I also had another nagging thought, and it had to do, of course, with my children. Oldest boy, turning 12, high school, questions. And I thought, oh my God, within 8 to 10 years, I would sit with him at the kitchen table, and what if he would ask me the question, Mom, what did you think? What did you do? And then I then would say, nah, you know, honey, Mommy was busy, job, you know, thought about it, but didn't have time. So then the story, of course, of the astronauts, but also the big topics, they came together. And then they made me thought of this guy, because he's one of the big thinkers, at least I think so. And he has a great phrasing. And he says, okay, je ziet het als je het door hebt. And that it comes down like, okay, you only understand it, or you only see it when you really understand it. And that was what happened to me. We have those astronauts with a different perspective, and they start to act upon it. That is a beautiful story. And what if we could recreate that back on Earth and have all children of the future feel it? Because that is important. We don't tell them, but they experience it, feel it, take it to heart, draw their own conclusions. What if we could do that and show them that one world with that one people? What if we could make that happen?
Operating normally.
Engine stop. ATA and a descent. Mode control both autos. Engine command override off.
Oh my God, look at that picture over there. There's the Earth coming up. Wow, that's pretty. Oh, that's a beautiful shot.
Can you guys see this? Yeah, seriously.
Consider again that dot. That's home. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam.
I'm excited to share my personal experience with the next generation and offer them a new perspective on our planet. We are all astronauts of Spaceship Earth. Join us.
That was what got us started. But of course, then you have the idea, but then the problem starts. You know, you need to execute. And how on earth are we going to recreate that impactful experience? Because it has to be impactful, it has to be felt. And then, of course, you start with the numbers, and we thought, okay, how many children are we talking about? And then we thought, okay, how many? We need that 25%. We need 25% for the tipping point. So that would be roughly 9 to 12, 150, 200 million. A bizarre amount. But the funny thing is, it really helped us. Because if you have such an amount in front of you, then you start to act and think radically different. Because otherwise you will never get there. So we thought, okay, two things we need to do. One is, how do we get it to the children? And second, we need to create a program around it, because just having that experience won't do the trick, you know, you need to start to act upon it. So first, how do we bring it to the kids? And we thought, okay, let's do VR goggles, American school bus, they are scattered all over the world, secondhand, low budgets. No, that should do it. And then the engineers came back and they explained to us, no, the adjustments you need to make, that is too much of a chunk of the business case. And then it worked again. Engineers went back and they started to think from a different perspective. And they thought, what if we create something completely different? And they ended up with this. And this actually is fully scalable. Of course, the first one was quite difficult to build, but it's built in such a way that the more we have of them, hundreds, hopefully, in the future, the lesser the cost. So we have our own rocket, completely filled with the latest virtual reality, but also 4D movements and things like that. It could be adjusted to any country, so that was cool, that was one. Second, of course, was the program. And we thought of the program like, okay, if we look at those children, they need the tools and the capabilities to act upon it. And we knew one thing for sure. It should be something with technology, because the solutions of the future has to do with technology. So we created a very interesting program for them with science, mathematics, technology, things like that, but also from a virtual reality perspective. So it's much easier to get a relation and feel comfortable with technology, because whether they like it or not, our kids, they need to act with that. So within that program, we had that element. And the second element we added to it is something which they could belong to, because they needed to know that they're not alone out there, that they can do it together. So we thought, okay, why don't we give them the title of astronauts, you know, ambassadors of planet Earth, so they know they're together. And that is how we all got it started. And that is the program we made adjustable to any country, any curriculum in the world. And now, of course, I got the questions, okay, how are you doing? How is it going? And it's incredible. It still gives me goosebumps. What we see when we arrive at schools and the feedback we get from the teachers is that you actually see that those children, they're radiant. They look at the rocket, they tell you the stories about Earth and what they've seen there, what they personally have seen there. We see it in their eyes, and that's incredible. But also the very important point is we see that they start to act upon it. They make Earth deals for themselves with their classroom. And an Earth deal could be something practical, of course, and they're all small things, they're small steps, they're children's steps. But we have school classes, they decided that they would build a kitchen garden because they wanted to grow their own food, but also hand it over to other people in the neighborhood. We have children who told us, okay, at technology lesson, we build our own insect hotels and little solar systems, so we have our own light in the classroom. We have school classes explaining to us that they're sending postcards to the elderly because they are lonely sometimes. Shouldn't they get a card? Or maybe do a classic board game afternoon. It's incredible. But also technology, of course. We have school classes and they do challenges with prototypes to make the world a better place. So it's beautiful to see what happens. And they do it together. And I think that is something we need. So that is really a beautiful thing. And of course, we have all kind of other sort of results. 36,000 people were already welcomed by us in the rocket. More than 90 nationalities. Interesting to see that although the cultures differ for this program, there's more that connects than divides within that. We have teachers with incredible ratings, 9.3 out of 10. That's cool. We have waiting lists in the Netherlands, and they start to grow also in France, Belgium, Germany. We were there last year for the first time. So it's cool. It works. It actually works. And then I forgot what I wanted to say, and now I know again. Are we there yet? No. 25%. That's a massive number. We need more money. We need more sponsors. We need more partners. We need more people to achieve that goal. Because how cool would it be if eventually we could give this experience and this plan to 25% of the children across the world? It would be great if you would join us. And thank you very much.